Hi, my name is John. Welcome to paradise. This is a vintage iron bracket, one of a pair. The cap to the entrance is an antique British ironwork. The support systems on either side are from an old building in downtown Los Angeles, and the Art Nouveau lamp standard, which is one of a pair, is from an old apartment house near downtown Los Angeles. All of the stairways have copper hand railings. Corbels at the top are solid iron, and they're Victorian pineapples. The Art Deco drinking fountain, which works, is from Santa Anita Racetrack. All along the railing from the bottom to the top has hidden tube lighting that you can turn on at the bottom or the top. The fountain, which is usually full of lily pads and flowers, has a hand-carved lion fountain head and two Victorian brass light standards on either side. The three-dimensional bird tile above the entrance. All three windows in the dining area outside are beveled Victorian windows with a vintage piece of ironwork above the center window. Copper antique lanterns are from Europe, and they're hung on antique meat hooks. The antique iron brackets supporting the whole system are both from South America. The Art Nouveau brass lady, I don't know whether she's from the US or Europe. The bell, I think, is a reproduction. This is an old handle from a pull chain toilet. The bronze and halophane shade light fixture is from an old French metro. The brass or bronze ornamentation is double-sided. The pulls are bronze and they're from England. They're antique. The front bevel doors are new. This is the second of the ornamental iron piece. Originally, there was a wall here in the center, and these were two small bedrooms, which I removed the wall, put in a tin ceiling, and created a kitchen. The stove is 1929. I use just the burners. The oven can be repaired by Antique Stove Heaven, but I never use it because it's too hard to clean, so I have a microwave instead. Sink is walnut, and the tiles are antique French tiles made for an English pub. That's an old English clock on the wall. If you pay enough money for the house, you get to keep the clock. The window is over 100 years old from a public building. It's oak on the inside, redwood on the outside, and has the old antique wire glass windows. All of the handles and hardware in the kitchen are antique, and they're solid brass or bronze. The trompe-l'oeil is done by an ex-tenant, Toby Bluth, who is an animator and also illustrates children's books. Fan has a face of an old Victorian stove ad, and it's a vintage handle to turn it on. The towel bar is an old Victorian door handle. Shelves are old Carrera milk glass, and there are vintage brackets on the top of one, and the support system to the other one has vintage brackets also. I bought this stove because I love the way it looked and because of the extra little burner to keep a teapot warm all day long. The handles on the inside are bronze. I believe they're European and they're antique. The swiveling stool you use a telephone, I found in the trash. I saved it. It's all handcrafted. Next to the telephone is used to be overdoor, but it's an old Victorian beveled window. All the light fixtures in the kitchen are halophane, and the support systems above them are all solid bronze. The Art Nouveau window in the kitchen, one of them, is acid etched. The window next to the bar is a Victorian beveled window. The pot holder is about 200 years old. There's a name for them, I don't remember, but they were used in giant walk-in fireplaces to cook through 3 or 4 different pots at different levels. The hutch is an old Victorian piece, and the patent date behind the handles on the drawers are from the 1870s. The acid-etched window Art Nouveau is from Belgium, and there's a piece of old French antique fireplace above it. They were industrial light shades, and they had a lot of lead in them to reflect the light more. The halophane shades throughout the house, when they were made originally, had more lead in them, so they sparkle more when you turn the light on. They're reproducing them now without the lead. The drugstore counter stools are vintage. I'm not sure what year, but probably about 100 years old, with the brass footrests. The ornamentation above the halophane light fixtures is part of an old French fireplace. The corables are from Texas. They're old Victorian corables. The pump is an antique European water pump. The silver-plated brass Art Nouveau light fixture, I'm not sure of the period, but it has a hand-cut Victorian shade. The old Art Nouveau light fixtures, I'm not sure whether they're brass or bronze, are from the MGM auction. The brackets are all hand-carved mahogany, one piece of wood. I'm not sure of the age or where they come from. Yes, the back of the mahogany brackets are all beveled. The base for the fireplace is all Italian tumbled marble, as is the baseboard throughout the living room. The antique brass corables are from this country. The enameled stove is from England. It was originally coal burning, now it's gas. The window is vintage with the 16 lights, and the brackets on either side at the top of the window are French andirons. The chandelier is brass Art Nouveau, and the shades are amethyst crackle Victorian shades. The window that opens is Victorian with old rolled glass. The middle window with the diamonds is a new window with water glass. It's an old Victorian beveled, very highly detailed window. It's a heavy beveled Victorian window, I believe. I don't know the age, if it's old. Also in this room are a pair of sconces, I believe they're French. Shades are French. The door to the master bedroom is an old Victorian window that I had made into a door. The three windows have bamboo glass in them with the other Art Nouveau iron decorative piece and an antique European handle to hold the window open. The handle on the window is from an old trolley car from the late 1800s. Can you imagine how many millions of hands used that to open and close the pocket door? The two light fixtures are Italian. They are hanging on Victorian legs for a wall bed. One of the magic things about having all these beveled windows is the rainbows that it casts in the rooms. The Art Nouveau French fireplace was originally a coal-burning stove, as was the one in the living room. I wanted an open bathroom with a huge skylight above it that you can take a bath and look up into the orange tree. The iron in front of the clawfoot bathtub is Art Deco with a brass top. I'm not sure of the age of the sink, but the hardware is bronze. The glass holder is Batchelder. The towel holder and handle to exit and enter the tub is solid bronze. It was an old door handle from a Victorian house. The medicine chest is an old Victorian chest with a beveled mirror and a mercury glass pool. The sconces are vintage brass with hand-blown ribbon glass Victorian shades. The neon clock is from Los Angeles and it was made in the early 30s. The tub is Victorian. It includes the Victorian sponge basket holder, and all the fixtures are Victorian. The marble shelf above it is supported by old school desk brackets. The mechanism is an air conditioner and a heater. And the large bevel glass window is Victorian. It was an over-door window. The detailing above the door is a bronze European ornamental fixture. The light switches in the master bedroom are all Victorian. All the toilets in the house are vintage, as are the toilet paper holders. In the toilet of the master bathroom is a large vintage light fixture. The spiral staircase is a newer one made of aluminum. The beveled window, I'm not sure of where it's from or the age. I bought it at an auction. The window with 60 lights in it is vintage. The two leaded glass windows are Victorian. The fixtures are solid brass Victorian with halophane shades. The window is from the 20s. It was a closet window. And the light fixture is Victorian with a case glass shade. This is a vintage bevel glass front door with vintage hinges. I bought 2 door knockers. I had this one welded to be just a handle, and this is the door knocker for the front door. The corbels, or fretwork, I apologize, are Victorian. The chandelier is brass, and it has hand-blown art glass shades. The windows are Victorian, and the brass plate above them is part of an old French fireplace. All the cabinets were faced with lath and pickled. All the handles are old door handles from the 20s. The sink is a recycled old bowling alley. Originally, that was a window that I reconverted into a shelf with a light behind it. The light fixture in the kitchen is hand-blown art glass with a Victorian brass holder. The doorway I saved. It was being thrown out. It was an old European door. And I went to night school and learned how to do leaded glass windows, which I made for the door. The light fixtures are all brass with halophane shades. And the sink, I believe, is either from an old railway car or a ship. And the faucets are Victorian. The toilet is a vintage base with a vintage toilet seat, and the top is vintage copper. The toilet paper is Victorian nickel-plated brass. It was the mirror in the bar of the hotel. It's Victorian. The shower head is vintage brass. The medicine cabinet is pine. I believe it's Victorian. There's a skylight in the hallway that opens with a crank. There's a trompe-l'oeil done by my friend Douglas Riseborough. The handles are solid nickel on the closet doors, and they're from Stanford White's apartment. They were old drapery rod holders. The hat rack and coat rack in the hallway is vintage, it's English, and the light on the wall, the old elevator light, is bronze from the 30s, an Art Deco elevator light. The handle is an old Victorian ink blotter that I converted into a door handle. It's Victorian and it's English, and I know it was used in a movie as the front door to a whorehouse, but I don't know the name of the movie. Here we are in the master bathroom. The mirror stays, the large mirror, the Victorian mirror. The sink is an old barber sink with vintage handles. The stopper holder is a vintage piece. This is an old overcoat holder, bronze from an old Victorian train. The large medicine cabinet is Victorian with brass ornamentation. The pair of sconces are, I believe, vintage brass with hand-cut glass. It's Victorian hand-cut opalescent glass shade with a brass collar. It's an old brass door knocker, brass Victorian toilet paper holder. It's a beveled Victorian window, and the wooden carved pieces are mahogany. All the rest of the wood in the bathroom that's not painted is walnut. The pools in the master bathroom are brass with mercury glass. That's just brass ornamentation. Two ornamental pieces of iron. One is for the fan in the shower, and the other covers the electric heat. The light fixture leading to the backyard is a hand-cut Victorian globe with a brass holder. The doors in the upstairs guest bedroom are solid mahogany, and they open up to a built-in closet and a chest of drawers and shelves. Sconce is Art Nouveau brass with French shades. The Victorian window with the jewels is from turn of the century, and it has an antique holder. The window, I'm not sure of the age, but the brackets on either side are from Victorian fireplaces. The window was a Victorian over-door window I had converted into a door, and the handles are hand-cut English crystal. The unit in the wall is a vintage fan and heater. The door is vintage French, and the handles are turn-of-the-century American. The light fixture is Victorian case glass, and I'm not sure if it's brass or metal. I don't know whether that's rust or just old brass. In front of a vintage hand-painted Italian tile. As you exit the back door, you'll notice a handcrafted three-dimensional tile of billy goat's gruff plus a vintage metal ornamentation outside the window. The banister going up into the backyard is all handcrafted, and at the top is another brass vintage finial. What you're looking at here is an old cannon support from outside of an old fortress in Europe. All right, this is the second vintage Art Nouveau lamp standard in the backyard at the top of the steps coming up. I call this stone arch the Mel Brooks arch. I had the pleasure to work in 4 of his films, and one of the residuals was a large one, and it paid for the arch. So I thought I should name it after him. And the ornate old gate is from an old Victorian in downtown Los Angeles. Tiles are from the 20s, and the lady, I believe, is from about the 30s. I know nothing about her, except I liked her and had to buy her. This is the old Victorian laundry room. The windows are beveled Victorian. The ironwork above is vintage. The gate is an old French elevator gate. And the lamp standard is probably turn of the century. This is a brass Panther light fixture, solid brass, with a hand-blown ribbon glass Victorian shade. This is a 28-foot waterfall with 44 tons of river rock in it, and a winding long staircase going up to the summer sleeping room above the waterfall. And the roof is corrugated tin from the Second World War. You'll notice as you go up the winding staircase a number of copper finials decorating the top. The indentation in the waterfall was the original outhouse, and when we renovated it, we included it, put in a seat, an armrest, and a place to set your drink. The large centerpiece with the birds and the ornamentation is from Perino's parking lot, and it's double-sided. The light posts are vintage from South America. The hand-blown European glass window is from the Jackie Coogan building on Western Avenue. The sconces are vintage and the globes are English case glass globes. It's a different color inside. Blue on the outside, white on the inside. The two brackets at the end are sand cast iron. The lava bowl is an antique from Europe with an antique fixture, and it works. The fretwork is Victorian. The corbels are also Victorian. The blue stone weighs 500 pounds, and we had to hire 4 football players to get it up. This is a solid brass British antique butler's step. I still use it to cautiously get into the summer sleeping bed. This was my last acquisition. It's a very old French garden iron statue. And now I feel the house is finished. Thank you for coming to see my beautiful house. I spent 40 years renovating it, broke my bank account, and busted my butt. But it's all worth it because look what I've got.